Hi everyone and welcome. So June has already passed. We are officially past the halfway point of the year, and that's why I thought it would be ideal if I do a check-in video. So I do know that you have the mid-year freakout tag and stuff like that, and even though I love watching that, I actually like a more chatty type of video where I can really focus on the stuff that I find important. So that's what I'm doing. And I actually did a quite similar video after the first quarter of the year that I will link up above. So even though this will focus on the first half of the year, I will zoom in on the second quarter a little bit more because of course that's the quarter that I haven't discussed yet. Together with this video, a companion video is coming out next week where I will rank all of the books that I read in spring, so basically the second quarter of the year, from least favorite to most favorite. So if you're interested in that, then definitely keep your eyes open. I will also talk there what my biggest disappointment is, for example. But in this video, I will go over my reading stats and my reading goals, what I plan to read in the second half of the year. And then in the second half of this video, I will also discuss my Booktube channel and what I want to see differently and all of those things. So even though this is going to be a quite long video, I will try to make it as compact as possible. And that means jumping into the first goal right away. And the first goal is one that I think almost everyone keeps track of. And that is, how many books do you plan to read in the year? Now, in the beginning of the year, I set my goal at 52 books, which is roughly one book per week. That was, it was definitely a test for myself because that was more than what I read last year. But this was pre-audiobook and I'm quite happy to see that I'm a little bit above or ahead of schedule. In the first quarter of the year, I read 19 books and then in the second quarter, I read 18. So again, I'm quite happy that this remains pretty stable. So that means that I have read 37 books at the end of June, so halfway through the year, which is progress of 71%. So I'm quite confident that I will meet my goal by the end of the third quarter, which is amazing. But as I said, part of that is of course that I am listening to audiobooks as well. And in the first quarter of the year, this was right in the middle, 50-50 between physical and audiobooks. I was quite happy with that and I said that I wanted to maintain that. Now, when looking at the numbers, I think that I did that quite well. Because in the second quarter, I read 7 physical books, 6 audiobooks, and then 5 that were a mix between the two. So it might seem like I'm reading more physical books. However, the ones that are mixed are 80 to 90% audiobook. So I do think that I listen to books a little bit more than I physically read them. But to be honest, even though I said in the first quarter of my check-in video that I wanted to keep track of that, when we then look at page count, it's actually funny to see that even though I read one book less in the second quarter, I actually had more pages read. In the first quarter of the year, I read 8,679 pages, and in the second quarter of the year, I read 9,665 pages, so 1,000 pages more. So I was picking up some heavier books, it seems. If you then look at the difference between audio and physical, it's quite clear that this is the same distribution as the amount of books, physical and audio. So I think that this means that I am picking up quite similar books through both media, and it's not that I am listening to very thick books and picking up very small books to physically read. It's a little bit similar, so quite happy with that as well. The average page count per book is 537 pages, so I do think that that's quite normal if you read a lot of fantasy, that you are going to pick up some thicker books, so that is the average page count. I'm not surprised by that. The shortest book that I read was Merlin Redux, which is 266 pages, and the longest book that I read was The Last Argument of Kings, which was 693 pages. I was quite surprised by that because I picked up some Robin Hobb books and it felt like these were longer, but Goodreads said that this was the longest book and I trust Goodreads. When we then look at the genres, I did mention just a couple of seconds ago that I picked up a lot fantasy, and I don't think that anyone is surprised that most of the books that I picked up in the second quarter of the year were in the adult fantasy category. Now, I did pick up 3 sci-fi books, but those were for the Expanding My Horizon series that I'm doing, where I am trying the sci-fi genre. So I finished the Red Rising trilogy, and I also started the first book in the new Red Rising series and finished that one as well. Now, for this series, I have some other sci-fi books that I want to try, and for now, it seems that I will pick up Dune, Parable of the Sower, Jurassic Park, and The Martian. So those are hopefully going to be read in the second half of the year. And then I would like to sprinkle in some historical fiction as well, because I'm always a little bit sad when I see that I read all of those fantasy and that then there are a lot of other great books that I'm missing out on. But on the other hand, I did enjoy the majority of the books that I picked up in the second quarter of the year, so I'm not going to complain if I enjoyed myself. When we then look at authors, so the 18 books that I've read were written by 13 different authors, and 4 of those were new to me, and those were Lucy Holland, Signe Pike, John Gwynne and Alex E. Harrows. So I'm quite glad with that distribution. So even though I really like to get to know new authors and maybe meet some new favorite authors, I also like to go with the familiar ones that I know that haven't let me down in the past. I don't want to get trapped in the cult of the new, you could say, so I'm quite happy that I stay with authors that I know I enjoy, but I have some new ones that some of them I really enjoyed, others were a little bit of a disappointment. So it's always a risk that you take, but I'm glad with that distribution. When we then look at the genders, for as far as I can see, and I can tell, I'm sorry if I made a mistake here, 5 of the authors were males and 8 were females. So this is quite similar to the first quarter of the year. I always read more female authors than male authors, it seems, and I'm not really even paying attention to that, but I'm also not surprised because my 2 favorite authors, Juliette Merlier and Robin Hobb, both of those are females, so it's kind of what I'm used to, I guess, even though it is surprising if you look at the fact that I read mostly adult fantasy and most people connect that with male authors, so I'm quite happy with this distribution as well. Now, I didn't read any new authors or debut authors. Now, I must say that some of the books that I've read were the first book of that author, but by now they are very well known, so I wouldn't really call them a new author at this point. I did read one new release, which is again also a little bit sad because I have bought a lot of new releases, but the one new release that I did read was Sister Song by Lucy Holland and I enjoyed that one greatly, but she is not a debut author. Now, some of the new releases that I bought and that I do want to get to, hopefully this year, is For the Wolf and the Woodsman, Ariadne, Children of Jocasta, The Black-Tongued Thief, Empire's Ruin, The Bone Maker, The Counselor, The Mask of Mirrors, and The Unbroken. So I will put the authors here with the books, and I will put an asterisk if these are debut authors. So if you want to know more about these, then you can find them here. So that's everything that I have to say about authors. I'm quite happy with the overall distribution in this regard. So that means that our stats are somewhat finished. Now we are going to go over to goals and more the specific books and series that I've read. So in the beginning of the year, I had a TBR for standalones and a very clear goal that I wanted to read 10 standalones this year. I also had a TBR of series that I started in 2020 that I definitely wanted to finish in 2021. And then I also had a list of series that I haven't started yet, but that I wanted to start in 2021 and hopefully also finish this year. So when we first look at standalones, in the first quarter of the year, I read 8 standalones in total and 6 were on the list of that TBR, which was great. In the second quarter of the year, I only read 2 standalones, but both of these were on the list. That was Sister Song by Lucy Holland that I already discussed, and then The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrows that I discussed as a new to me author. And this was actually one of my least favorite books, so you win some, you lose some, I guess. It's always a risk if you pick up an unknown author. But those are the 2 standalones, and that does mean that I have read 10 standalones this year, so I already finished that goal mid-year. Quite happy with that, and I will definitely pick up some more standalones. The ones that I will pick up, and some of these are part of the new releases of 2021, are The Counselor, The Raven and the Reindeer, The Wolf and the Woodsman, The Sword of Kagan, and this is actually a buddy read that we are going to do in September. So if you haven't read that book yet and you want to, put it on your TBR schedule for September. We will probably have a discussion at the end of the month for that book. So very excited for that one. Never Die, The Bone Maker, Ariadne, Piranesi, and The Once and Future King. So those are all of the standalones that I'm interested in and that have a very high chance of being read by the end of the year, but we will see. When we then go to the series that I started last year and that I want to finish this year, so in the second quarter of the year I finished one of those, and that is the Enchanter General series by Dave Duncan. Really enjoyed that one, and I would highly recommend if you're looking for a very fun, quick and easy read. Don't expect giant character growth or anything like that, or very twisty plots. No, you're not going to have that, but it's a quick and easy read and I quite enjoyed it and I'm so happy that I finished it. Then The Raven's Shadow Trilogy by Anthony Ryan is one that I read the first one of last year, Bloodsong, loved that one, and I did really want to continue with the series this year, and I am doing a read-along for this together with Steve over at Steve Talks About Books and Stuff and Epic over at Epic Tales. So this means that this series, even though it's not finished at this point, will very soon because we are reading the last book in August. So that one is going to go off the list as well. Then there are some series that I really need to get to. The first one is The Witcher. I'm quite angry with myself that I haven't finished this one yet because I read everything of The Witcher or in that series in 2020. And then I only needed to read Season of Storms, which is the prequel. But I'm always a little bit hesitant to pick up prequels because you know these characters and you have a certain image of them. And then at the end of the story, the author goes, well, actually, I have this story that is really at the beginning of their main story that you already know, and this might change your viewing of these characters completely. So I'm always a little bit hesitant of that, which is why I definitely want to pick it up, but if I end up disliking it, I will DNF it pretty soon because I don't want my memory of The Witcher tarnished. The other one that I really need to get to is the Winnowing Flame trilogy by Jen Williams. Again, loved The Ninth Reign, still need to read the next 2 books in the trilogy, and am planning to do so before the end of 2021. And then the other one is, again, one that I'm angry with myself that I haven't at least made progress yet, and that is the Song of the Shattered Sands trilogy by Bradley P. Bolio. This trilogy recently concluded, I think only a couple of weeks ago. I read the first one, 12 Kings, in 2020. And then in 2021, I did read the second one. So I did make progress already, but I want to read at least the next 2 books in the series. This is one that if I don't finish it, it's fine, but I should make progress. Now, I did DNF 2 series from 2020. The first one is Wheel of Time, of course, everybody knows. And then the other one is actually the Chronicle of the Unhung Throne series. So I read the original trilogy, loved it, but then the standalone Skullthorn, I did DNF in the second quarter of the year. There is a new book in the entire series that came out, so the first one of a new trilogy, and of course I am going to read that one. But the original books that were out at the moment when I make this list, Skullthorn is a DNF, unfortunately. So then for the series that I actually started in 2021. So in the second quarter, I actually finished 2 of those series. The first one is the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. Really enjoyed that one, and yes, I will continue with the standalones, but I will probably start those in 2022. And me and a couple of other booktubers are talking about maybe doing a read-along for the standalone starting in January. So if you want to join, you know that that's probably going to happen. And the other one that I finished was what I said before, the Red Rising trilogy by Pierce Brown. Now, then there are some that I started, but that are still ongoing. The first one is The Faithful and the Fallen series by John Gwynne, but again, this is part of a read-along, and I will finish up this series in August, so that one is going to be ticked off by the end of the year. Then we have the Poison War novels by Sam Hogg. Very angry with myself that I haven't finished this one yet, because it's a duology. I read the first one in January, which is called City of Lies, and then I always keep saying that I will read Hollow Empire, and then I never do. I need to, it's just one more book. I can make it work. Another one is the Akatar series, so I read the first 2 in the trilogy. I am going to finish the trilogy summer this year, but that's the only commitment that I'm going to make in terms of this author. I'll see if I pick up anything other by her, but definitely not in 2021. Then I also have the Night Runner series by Lynn Llewellyn. So this is a very long series, and I started this as part of a read-along by Chris Bookish Cauldron and Andy Smith, but this is 10 books long, and I'm already 3 books in, but I'm a little bit behind the general schedule, so I will see if I keep following that schedule or if I take it a little bit slower. So this might not be a series that I finish this year, but I am committed to make progress for this series. Then another one is the Poppy War trilogy, but I am currently, so July, so not the second quarter of the year, but I am listening to The Burning God, which is the last book in this series, so I will definitely finish this one, even in July already. Then I have the Lost Queen trilogy by Signe Pike. So this is a trilogy, but only the first 2 books are out yet, and actually the second book came out in June. So I am going to read this in July. So again, this is one that I will be on track pretty soon. The next one that I have ongoing is the Pre-Day Chronicles by Juliette Merlier, my favorite author of all time. So this one will definitely get finished, but I don't really know when. Still have 2 books to read in this trilogy. The Tawny Man by Robin Hobb, so the 3rd trilogy in the Realm of the Elderlings. Spoiler alert, it's me from the future. I already finished the Tawny Man trilogy, so the 3rd one I read in July. So again, this is one that I didn't finish in the second quarter of the year, but it's no longer on my TBR. And then the 2nd Red Rising trilogy. So there I only read the first book, still need to read the 2nd, the 3rd one isn't out yet. So then I also DNF'd 2 series, so the Golden Wolf Saga and the Sacred Hunt duology. So that means that I have 8 series on my TBR that I don't really know when I will finish them, and then 4 that are almost done, and then 1 that is actually already done at this point. So I think that I'm doing quite well, especially if you remember that a couple of months ago I made a video where I talked about the 18 unfinished series. So now it's below 10. I did a good job, I think, in the second quarter of the year in this regard. Then there are some series that I want to start in the second half of the year. So we have the Riftforce Saga by Raymond Feist, The Wounded Kingdom by R.J. Barker. Then we have the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. And we also have the Ash and Sand trilogy by Richard Nell. This is actually a read-along that I'm going to host with some other booktubers starting in August. So again, this is a trilogy that I will finish for sure. So quite happy with that as well. So that was actually everything that I wanted to say about stats and goals. And now I'm going to go over my Booktube channel a little bit, what I thought about the first half of the year, which was also the first 6 months of my Booktube channel, and what I want to see in the future. So at the end of the first quarter, I had 230 subscribers, and at the end of the second quarter, I had a little bit under 400. So I can definitely see that there's a stagnation in the amount of new subscribers, and that my channel is maybe run its course in terms of growth. And I'm fine with that. I think that maybe a realistic goal for now is to have 500 someday. And I think that that's maybe the max that I can get out of it. I'm not unhappy with that. That's actually more than I ever expected. And I can also see why. I do know that I make quite typical Booktube content, but that's the type of content that I want to make, that I enjoy to make. And I also know that I might never be as well spoken as somebody who is a native English speaker or somebody who just has that. Some people have that, are very well spoken. That's something that you can't really, you can train yourself, but you can never become as well as somebody who's just natural at it. Also, I read a lot of fantasy, and that's what I really love, but I haven't been reading fantasy since I was a teenager, so I don't really know a lot about all of these fantasy books as some others do. So I can completely understand why, you know, not as many people are interested in a channel like this compared to somebody who does a lot of unique things or who is very well spoken or who just knows a lot about fantasy books. I can understand that, and I'm just very happy with everybody who is here. So if you are a subscriber, old, new, doesn't matter. Just know that I do appreciate you. I do appreciate the interaction. Then, what is new? So I do have a Discord channel now, and the link is down below, I think. I also have an Instagram and a Twitter, so if you want to follow me somewhere, you can do there. Also, if you have requests or anything like that, just let me know. I do ask sometimes on my Discord or on my Instagram through my stories what somebody wants to see or how they like to see a bookshelf tour, for instance. And with the feedback that I get, I can make a video that everybody enjoys. So if you want to give me some feedback on that, then join somewhere, Instagram, Discord, and let me know. In that same vein, I wanted to know if you guys like reviews, because I don't really make that many reviews because one, it takes me a lot of time, and two, these are the videos that don't do that well on the channel. So I still like them, and if there is a series that I am head over heels about or that I think I really need to say my piece about, I will make a review. But at this point, I'm not really scrambling to have a review up each week just because I know that they're not doing as well. Again, on my Discord channel, I do have a list of all the series that I finished, all the standalones that I finished, so that you can see if you want a review for any of those, you can always let me know. But just wanted to put that out there, that I'm not going to make reviews on a very regular basis unless somebody asks a specific one. Otherwise, it's going to be for books or series that I think really need one. Now, other than that, yes. So strict upload days. At the end of my first check-in, I said that I was going to try strict upload days. It doesn't work for me. Everybody knows that I'm not a batch filmer. No matter how many times I try, I just can't do it. And I have some very busy weeks, some weeks that I'm not busy, and I just wanted to make videos that I enjoy, and not a video because, oh, it's Wednesday and I need to have a video up, let's make an easy video. That's just not the type of thing that I want to do, and since I can't batch film, I also can't make videos in advance. So in the end, I was making videos that I wasn't really proud of. I was very stressed. Don't want that. This is a hobby for me, so no strict upload days. I do want to upload at least once a week. Most of the time it will be twice a week, but just whenever I feel like it, basically. Other than that, my content might have changed a little bit, because in the first quarter I didn't do this, but then the last 3 months I started doing a lot of live streams, so discussions for books that we have been reading in terms of read-alongs. Also, reading sprints is something that I've been doing quite a lot. We have started the movie of the month, where we have one movie each month and we watch separately or together via an online program and then discuss it afterwards. And this is something that I've really enjoyed a lot. All of those live streams, discussions, just because meetups, live streams, just in general reading sprints. I am quite enjoying that. It also takes a lot of time because even though you might not have seen a video up on my channel, I might be on somebody else's channel having fun there, but also taking some time to prepare for that, especially if it's a book discussion or movie discussion. It does take some time. So again, that's why my upload schedule might be a little bit different from week to week. But if you want to jump on that, I will leave Steve's forum link down below because there you can find the entire calendar. If you want to join a movie of the month, for example, or join a reading sprint, you can find all of the information there. And then in terms of making my channel a little bit better, I do have a new mic now, and I do hope that the microphone improves the sound. I think it does. It's not the best one. I wanted to have one that was wireless, but those were pretty expensive. This one does the job quite well, I think. My ears aren't that sensitive that I can listen and see a slight or hear a slight improvement, and it just wasn't worth it for me if I then have to pay 200 euros more. So quite happy with this, and I think what I want to do next is have lighting, because the lighting here is terrible. So that's the next step, and then some extra batteries, because I am filming on a Canon M50 and you can't charge that one while you're filming, and especially for live streams, that's really annoying. So if you know how I can change that, let me know. But for now, I'm just going to buy some extra batteries and see if that solves the problem for now. So I think that's everything what I wanted to say. I do want to improve my thumbnails. I think in terms of editing, I'm quite okay because first of all, if somebody is very good at editing and has some sick videos, I love that. I love to watch that. But that's not who I am. I am pretty laid back and just make the usual content. So I think in terms of just the editing of my videos, I'm fine. I'm also quite happy with my intro and my end screen. It took me a lot of time to make that, so quite happy with that as well. But my thumbnails, I would like to see some improvement there. I can already see improvement from the thumbnails that I'm making now and the thumbnails that I was making 6 months ago, but I want to improve a little bit more. So that's basically all that I wanted to say. Please let me know what your thoughts on these were. Reading goals. How are you doing? Do you have a reading goal? How many books you want to read by the end of the month or the end of the year, for example, and how are you doing with that? But also just let me know what you think of the Booktube channel in general and which direction you would want it to go, or if you're happy with what I'm doing right now. As always, I hope that you enjoyed the video and see you next time. Bye!